The first thing I want to talk about is President Obama's pick for the nominee. By now, everybody knows. Excuse me. By now, everybody knows that President Obama has nominated Merrick Garland. He's a federal appeals court judge, Harvard graduate. He has a very distinguished judicial career. He has been nominated to the Supreme Court, and he is, according to, I think, how do you pronounce his name? Judge Napolitano, whatever his name is. I don't really care. From Fox News, they believe that he is the most conservative nominee of any Democratic president in the modern era. As I was speaking with Bakari Sellers last night, he spoke about his quote unquote heartburn that he gets thinking about the nomination of Merrick Garland, particularly on criminal justice matters. If you look at his history on criminal justice, one article cited that he has rarely voted on the side of the appeal of the criminal appeal, and he has always come down on the side of law and order, criminal justice, and this is one of the biggest spots of contention. What does he really represent in that regard? He's also considered to be a bridge builder, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when you start, your starting position is already moderate, and you go in to be a bridge builder and a connection maker, or whatever you want to call yourself, a facilitator of agreement, you know, if you want to make it sound nice. If your starting position is from a moderate center position, then the only way for you to negotiate is further right. And many people, I mean, obviously the move is by President Obama is simply to be able to corner the Republicans and really make them look like fools, because they have said that no matter who President Obama nominates, they will not take it up. That's the game that's being played. Here's the thing. The Republican Party, the Senate, Republican senators are fully capable of calling President Obama's bluff on this and appointing someone to the Supreme Court who would not be an Antonin Scalia. Obviously, he's not. A Scalia, he is not. But someone who is likely to vacillate between voting with the conservative bloc and voting with the liberal bloc of the Supreme Court. And for some people, they consider that to be a good thing. Again, I'm all for bridge building. I'm all for building a coalition. I'm all for not compromise, but negotiations. The thing for me is that once you start from the center, your starting position is from the center. The only place you have to go is to the right. And that's kind of indicative of this entire race, right? This entire election, 2016, is what is going to be your starting position? What is your de facto position? Where are you coming from? And for someone like Merrick Garland, he's coming from the center. And if they're, and then of course, it's not going to be always about negotiations, right? You know, if he may be fully capable of making decisions based on on what he considers to be an unbiased interpretation of the Constitution, right? That's somewhat of what we want everyone to do. However, there is always the influence of your political ideology. So even though we can herald Merrick Garland to be a great, experienced a facilitator of justice, he is still coming with a political persuasion and a political ideology. And that political ideology is leaning more conservative than anything else. All of that to say this. At what point will we simply say, if we're going to lose, let's lose based on our values? If they're going to give us hell, why not let them give us hell over us fighting for what we really want, instead of taking something that is a consolation prize? If they are going to deny anyone and there's a little game that the Senate could play, and I want to talk about that in a second. But if the Republican senators are going to deny President Obama anyone, even someone as conservative as Merrick Garland, then why not go for something that you really want? Now, there's two trains of thoughts with that. There's two schools of thought with that. Number one, perhaps this is really who President Obama just is. This is who he is. Perhaps he wants more than anything else to be a conciliatory force. He wants to build bridges. He wants to connect and there's a word that's so obvious to me that it's escaping me right now. But maybe that's who a bridge builder. He just wants to be a bridge builder. Maybe that's who he really is. So perhaps Merrick Garland is right in line with who President Obama really is. At this point, it doesn't even matter, because 8 years are up and whatever at this point. But if that's who President Obama really is, then why are we trying to defend him from a progressive point of view, right? Why are people still trying to defend President Obama as this great progressive leader if all along he has not been a progressive? He's just been someone who wants to build bridges. A coalition builder. That's the word I think I've been looking for. Maybe that's more important than having someone that is a firebrand progressive. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is that President Obama is just playing chess, right? Everyone likes to say President Obama is playing chess. I see this is a slick move, right? He's trying to corner the Republicans and make them look foolish. This is going to make them look like complete obstructionists. But here's the thing. Who doesn't know that already about the Republican Party? We are fully aware that the Republican Party are nothing more than obstructionists, and they have been so for the last 8 years. So what is left to prove at this point? So I don't know exactly what game, what political chess he's playing here when we already know exactly who the Republican Party is. Now, I was reading an article, and there appears to be a rule. There appears to be a rule that would allow the Senate to appoint or to approve the nomination of the former president in a window of about 2 weeks between the time the new Senate comes back and the new president actually takes office. I'm trying to see if I have the dates right. Essentially, they have the ability, according to some arcane rule, that at the very last minute before the new president takes office, they could reach back and say, okay, here comes Bernie, here comes Hillary, or here comes Ted Cruz, whoever's coming, or here comes Donald Trump, God forbid. Let's go and approve, let's go and confirm rather Merrick Garland, which would really be the joke's on President Obama at that point, right? The odds, the article I think I was reading from NPR said that it's very unlikely that they will pull something like this. But if they did, then the joke would be on President Obama, because one, he would not get a confirmation underneath his time. And then two, we would get stuck with a justice. Well, the joke's on America, right? We'll get stuck with a justice that is going to very possibly rule with conservatives on issues that are critical, particularly criminal justice issues. So we have to wait and see. It's very possible that they're just going to steal railroad. I don't know. The biggest takeaway for me is this. I don't know if the political gamesmanship is worth it at this point when we already know exactly who the Republicans are. We also know that nothing that we're going to throw at them is going to make a difference or make them change. It might have an effect on maybe 2 senatorial seats. There are some senators who are in a very purple state where if there's enough people who see them as obstructionists that that they would lose those seats and those seats would turn blue. Okay, maybe he's playing there. But, you know, at some point, I would just, if you're going to get rejected, if you're going to go down, then why not go down fighting for something that you want instead of getting something that you don't want? And don't read anything more into what I just said. I'm talking expressly about Merrick Garland. All right, that's number one. All right, the other thing I want to talk about,